car accident. Doctors told me I wasn't going to walk again. Moved to California to go to nutrition school because I was dealing with a lot of health issues. And then obviously on to starting my business, changing careers multiple times, going through IVF, etc. I would say anything that you want to do, shift and change in your life, you can do it. You just have to focus on it.
Welcome to this week's episode of Not Your Mommas Podcast. Today, I am so excited. We have one of my long-term friends, Adair Vilella, on our podcast. Adair is a seasoned sales operations professional with over 15 years of experience in driving revenue growth for both large corporations and startups. She specializes in executive coaching, leadership development, organizational effectiveness, consulting, and data visualization. Adair, it is such an honor to have you on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
So, diving into the topic, how can women effectively balance their professional careers and deciding when motherhood is right for them?
Yes, I know this is a great question. So for those out there, obviously you don't know my backstory, but I am 40 and pregnant. So I definitely waited to put motherhood off and put my career first. So that was definitely a choice that I made in my early 30s. Of course, I don't regret it, but it definitely was a long journey of getting to where I am today. I would say, don't be afraid to put your career first, and definitely everyone, obviously to each its own. Everyone has their own experiences and things that are right for them. But I do feel this future generation is changing and people are having babies later and later. And I would say I did have to go through 4 rounds of IVF to get pregnant, but it was a crazy yet inspiring experience. I wouldn't have changed a thing. I do wish, though, that I understood egg quality before going into the experience. And for me, who's like lived out west in California for 12 plus years, went to nutrition school, really into health and wellness and the medical space, I obviously understood a lot about health and wellness and fertility, but I did not understand egg quality and the experience you have to go through for that. So I would say if you are in your mid 30s, around 35 or so, and you're single and or not planning on having kids in the next 2 years, definitely dive in to fertility doctors, learn about your AMH, detox as much as possible, and try to understand egg quality because it's very confusing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes, as we get older, the eggs are not as fertile, and so many women go through that same experience as you, through the IVF and stuff. And thank God we have those things so that we can, make the eggs a little bit more fertile so that we can be, pregnant and have those babies that we want. And so when, in your experience, like what are some unique challenges that women face in the corporate world, and how can they overcome them?
Yes, I would say, living out in California when I was in LA, I definitely felt a lot of opportunities for women, and I didn't feel hindered in my corporate position, which was great. But I have had other experiences in the startup world and or when I moved back to Atlanta in the South, being a part of different corporations. So I've had both realities of equal opportunity and also kind of being shoved in the corner. I would say, and is your question, what is the main question though? Like what to do about it?
Just like, so what are some challenges that you felt that people like women can face when they are, in the corporate world, and like how can they overcome them? Sometimes there's still that like bias probably, or the stigma of like, a mom's not available as much as a man because she's a mother. You know what I mean? So her duties are to like the kids more. Like that's obviously, I feel like, old thinking. And what are your thoughts on that? Like things that you've experienced in your, corporate background?
I would say definitely just speak up for what you need. And I think that's part of the process and experience with any position, whether it's corporate or startup or wherever it is. I feel like, and I feel like that things have shifted a lot since 2020, but more and more women are either pictured as being too emotional or too aggressive when they do speak up and want things. And I feel like that was something I was always good about. And I don't know if it was a strength or a weakness or a combination of both. I'm sure I drove a lot of my managers crazy. And I had to speak up for myself in different ways. I obviously didn't have kids yet, but there were things that I wanted in my life as far as like work-life balance and or more remote time and or just things of those natures of like if I was producing and I was doing really well and getting all my work accomplished, is it's kind of outdated these days, I personally think, to be able to, to have to be stuck in an office, especially if you are a night person or a morning person, or depending on how you get your work done. And so that is what ultimately led me to start my own consulting business because I didn't want a 9 to 5 job in a corporate setting, or any setting of being stuck in an office, being
Yeah.
told what to do all day when I knew I could produce and bring results and bring millions of dollars at the same time for people, no matter where I was sitting, right? It didn't have to be at their space. It was like if I had the freedom and flexibility to get everything I needed to accomplish my personal life and my work life and still thrive. It's like, how amazing is that?
Yeah. Now, what about for the woman who wants to start like their own business? Could you share some practical tips for mothers or anyone really looking to start their own company?
Yes, I definitely suggest getting a really good accountant or bookkeeper to get your LLC opened up and get that organized in a fashionable manner before diving out and spending a lot of money in other areas for the business. Also made an investment for a really good lawyer before jumping into my company, which was definitely one of the best decisions I made. I obviously help a lot of entrepreneurs these days, and I'm in a lot of their businesses, in their QuickBooks, and think in their financial matters. And I do feel like one of the things that people make a mistake on is feeling like they have to have a ton of money to start a business and or they have to throw a lot of money into marketing right away. And that's just not the case. I would say build the foundation of the business first, get a really clear picture of what it is that you're trying to do and accomplish and who your target market is and how you're going to be making income from it before you worry about the facade of it all, right? Like who cares how many Instagram followers you have or how perfect your marketing is. It's like worry about having income, revenue, reoccurring revenue, and then you can make those investments with time.
Yeah, it's kind of like take baby steps and you can't focus on like the perfectionism of like you said, the followers or what's the marketing going to look like. That'll come in time, especially when the dollars start flowing in, then you're able to really scale that part. But I think proof is in the pudding and when you can just show up for what your business is for and the concept is there. And you're right, like we don't need to have like a lot of money to start our startups, as long as we have a dream and a vision and passion, then we're able to go after those things that we want.
I've helped a lot of companies in the last 10 plus years, and I'm telling you, a lot of people who have an influx amount of followers do not have the recurring revenue. Now, that's not the case for everyone, obviously, but don't get so caught up in what's happening on the outside.
No, that is and you bring up a really good point. Like people, like we look at like the social thing, like how many people followers have, but it's like that really doesn't equate to how much revenue you're bringing in. So
Mhm.
you can have 100 followers, but you could be making a lot more money on the side, not on the side, but
Mhm.
like in the background. And I think you bring up that really good point because people really do get caught up in that. And I've been a victim of that too, starting the real estate, having a new page. There's not really that many followers, but it's like, I'm actually doing really amazing, on the
Mhm.
background of it. Yeah, I may have like only 200 followers now, but it's like, on for my real estate, but I'm actually doing really great. So you can't get caught up in the external world.
The facade is like what I like to say.
Yeah,
And
the
plus
facade.
us living in California, obviously that's very, I mean, especially being in LA, obviously that's very the reality in LA. And so, and it's becoming reality in other parts of the world now too. But yeah, don't let it fool you.
Yeah. And then kind of like diving onto that same topic more, so what are some key elements also to consider, when preparing a startup, to scale for investment?
Yeah, I would say a lot of clients come to me around the 500 or 1 million gross revenue stage because they've clearly made something work. They're having really good reoccurring revenue, but now they're ready to take it to the next level. And so one thing that I help them with is like we really look at the foundation of their business. And the same kind of question from before is like they might be worried so much about the marketing side of it and all of these things of that nature, but then they have the exposure to the business, but they may not have everything saved into a database. And what I mean by that is they might have all these followers on Instagram, or they might have made all these sales, but then they don't have all of their customer information, which is obviously a problem. So we really need database technology and or CRMs, depending on what type of business it is, to really gather names like first name, last name, email, phone number, and really having all these different personal identifications that's really important for your customers to be able to follow back up and upsell and cross sell and make that into more revenue. And so what people hire me for is to strengthen the foundation of the business, really look at their operations as far as team management goes. Are you prepared for onboarding? Do you have all your SOPs and documentations into place? Do you have really good clean data in your business? So we'll go and pull data from all their technology points and tell them where the errors are. We'll also do data visualization to really help them understand overall, like where they're losing money, where they actually should be putting more focus in the business to gain more money. And then we help build out sales teams, implement CRM so that they can scale effectively and efficiently.
And it kind of something clicked in my head. One thing is like kind of outsource, if you're not really like the best at, the marketing side, like have someone help you. You know what I mean? Like we can't do it all. Like focus on where like your strengths are. And then that's where you come in. And it's like, okay, well, that person's may not be, have the full strength of, implementing like the CRM and data collecting efficiently. So it's like hiring people like you to kind of help guide them, teach them, and clean it up. It just like, social media, like it takes time away from like what you really need to get done and during the day. So I think it's important for people to realize that like there is outsource and resources available to help you scale. And I love that you're in there. And I think that the data points and the CRM collecting is a very crucial part of anyone's business because you want to have that reoccurring business. You want to touch base. You want to get information out there. And you can't get information out there if you don't have their information to send to. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yes, definitely. And I tell this to all of my clients is like, don't be so stressed out about passing some of these items off to somebody else because it really doesn't light you up. It's not going to bring you peace, joy, love, etc. Then you're already going against why you started your business to begin with. So it's like like you said, pass those things off, focus on the things that you actually do enjoy because that is what brings revenue to the business because it's actually what you're good at and why you started the business so that you can actually move to the next section. And then just like you said with the CRM and data points, all of my clients there's always going to have turnover, right? But when you have all of these things saved and documented correctly, it just makes your life easier as a business owner. So you just were like, here's where they left off, figure it out. But
Yeah.
it's actually
Yeah.
documented.
Organizational flow is like key.
Mhm.
And so before we dive into the next segment, is there anything else you'd like to add to our conversation, Adair?
No, I think we pretty much covered all. I think for the high level, long story short, is just focus on what lights you up and don't stop until you get there. People might think you're crazy for going after and doing things that you enjoy or inspire you. And maybe that's multiple things at once, but don't let that stop you.
I love it. Well, it is time for our Power Mom Chronicles section. And Adair, I cannot wait to find out what your answers are. And my first question to you is, what's a game-changing lesson life has taught you?
I would say, you can do anything that you put your mind to. I mean, at 16, I was in a really bad car accident. Doctors told me I wasn't going to walk again. Moved to California to go to nutrition school because I was dealing with a lot of health issues. And then obviously on to starting my business, changing careers multiple times, going through IVF, etc. I would say anything that you want to shift and change in your life, you can do it. You just have to focus on it.
Yeah. And one thing I do know about you is you always achieve your goals, and you are very good at, focusing on the task at hand. And I've always admired you for that. So
Oh, thank you.
I know. And my second question is, reflecting on your journey, what's a practical lesson or insight our listeners can take to improve their own lives?
I would say really, growing up in the States and being American and then marrying a European, my husband's from Barcelona, I really had to learn how to shift and be present and really slow down in my life, which was like an amazing lesson that I learned. And I would say, if anything, really learn how to be grounded, slow your life down in other ways. It doesn't mean that like money is going to slow down or opportunities are going to slow down. It's just you're going to be able to really focus and put true intention into what matters most to you. Because then slowly you're going to attract the better opportunities or stronger opportunities or things that more resonate for your future as you shift from like your 20s to your 30s to your 40s, etc. So I would say slow down, breathe, and be present.
Yeah, we tend to not do that. We want to get everything done. We want to be like these super women, and we tend to get caught up in the rat race of everything. But it is very important to just slow down and take a breath and take time for yourself, listen to yourself from within, because I also feel us as women, or just anyone really, not trying to gender specific, but we tend to not listen to ourselves of what we really need, and just like the external things again, like we get caught up in that when we need to like focus on our internal selves. And then offer a piece of wisdom for moms or anyone striving to find their strength and voice.
Well, I have a quote that I've always kind of like lived by, so I'll kind of throw that out there. So I say fear has two meanings. It can be fear everything and run, or face everything and rise. And so obviously I've always taken the latter of face everything and rise, because life is stressful, but it's everything is what you put into it, right? So if you create chaos in your life, then it's just going to be more chaotic. But if you slow down and bring like peace and attention and presence into it, things just naturally shift around you. So I would say go after it and don't be afraid.
And the best advice you've ever received?
Truthfully, I've kind of always gone against all the advice that was given to me. I would say a lot of times I made choices in my, teens and 20s, obviously based off what my parents wanted for me or what they thought would be best for me. And then when I started listening to my own intuition and listening to myself, then that's when I got the most critics of like, I can't believe you're doing that. Like, you're crazy for quitting your job and moving to California. You're changing careers again. What's wrong with you? All the things. So at the end of the day, once I stopped listening to everybody else around me and really focused on the inside, is when I really found my true path.
Yeah.
So listen to yourself.
The best advice is within yourself.
Yeah.
I love that answer. That's a great answer. Well, Adair, thank you so much for coming on this week's episode of Not Your Mommas Podcast. It was such an honor to have you on. All of her links are down below in the show notes. Don't be shy. Go say hi. And I hope to see you all in the next one. Thanks for listening.